Hi, this is Ian Temple. Welcome back to VoiceHead. This is going to be like a part 2 of a thing I'm doing about Steve Perry's vocal technique. So I didn't really do a proper demonstration the first time, and I just kind of want to take the opportunity to give you a demonstration. If you want to know a little bit more about the techniques I'll be using, you can refer to part 1 of the Steve Perry thing, and then I'm going to actually go in and talk about just kind of a little bit more information on lead singers that might be useful for this. So just going to add a little effect here, and here we go. And I'm going a cappella because the music is, I'll probably get flagged for using the music. So I'm just going to do this a cappella. You can hear the thunder of their cries ahead of their time. They wonder why. The shadow of a golden age, a generation waits for dawn. The brave carry on, bold and the strong. Only the young can say they're free to fly away, sharing the same desire, burning like wildfire. Okay, so some things that you might have noticed are I was trying to lower my larynx. So I was doing a little bit of breathiness, and I was employing a little bit of proximity from the microphone, not getting too close on it to get like a nicer, just a nicer kind of a more rounded EQ. Another thing that you might notice from the way that I'm talking right now to the way I spoke on the other one is I'm not using my normal voice. This is what my normal voice sounds like, but you'll notice whenever lead singers are in interviews, often doing public speaking things with a tenor vocal range, they'll often talk like this. Probably the most egregious would be Michael Jackson, who spoke like this whenever he was in front of the media. But his friends and family would tell you that, like, when he was alone, he would talk a little bit more like this, a little bit more full voiced. What's the reason for that? Well, number one, I think Michael Jackson, like, he really kind of thrived off of evoking this very childlike sensation in his audience as he was singing to them. And that's cool. Now another reason, cause, I would do that with my kid, right? Like you think when you're like going to be a dad, you're like, I'm not going to do the baby voice. I'm just going to be a nice, cool, normal guy. Right. But then you get your kid and you're just like, it just comes out of you, So, I think that, that kind of like helps you kind of, relate with people and brings out the inner child in everybody. Now, another more insidious reason why he might speak like this in interviews is because then when he starts singing on his albums, not if you're black or white, people hear that and they relate it to his speaking voice and they go, oh my God, he's belting. He's belting all the way up into the 5th octave. He is not belting into the 5th octave. Okay, nobody's belting into the 5th octave, who has male genetics, because it's not physiologically possible. It's not. It's just not. Now the range between let's say a Freddie Mercury and a Johnny Cash in terms of not necessarily their range, but where their voice switches from a heavier, chestier mechanism into a lighter, more heady mechanism, is like not different at all. Okay. Now this is something that may be very, very hard to accept for you, but I can stand on the shoulders of absolute giants here and tell you that it is a fact that for all intents and purposes, voice type is dead. Voice type had a kind of usefulness way back when there were none of these. There were no microphones. When there weren't any microphones, then you would kind of, in order to fill up an entire auditorium without using any electronic amplification whatsoever, you would kind of need to find a way to optimize your vocal instrument for volume. Okay. However, we don't need to do that anymore, because if you want more volume, I just turn this little dial. Oh, excuse me. Hello. I just turn this little dial right here and I crank that up. This is not acting right. Anyway, you've all heard a volume knob go up before. Now my volume knob is out. I'm loud. Okay. So that is, and then of course, this is really done automatically nowadays because we have compressors. We don't need to, constantly move that fader, and we really don't need to optimize our voice for volume. In fact, you shouldn't do that. You should be trying to produce a relatively quiet sound, because that's going to allow you the most opportunity to do different special things with it when your airflow isn't crazy and your own voice has to kind of go into a kind of a shutdown mode that makes it more likely that your voice is going to crack, right? Because you've got these receptors in your throat that are literally kind of like looking down to see how much air is coming up. And when a big, huge breath is coming up, they get out of the way, right? So that's never that fun when you're performing in front of a live audience to have your voice crack. It happens to the best of us. So anyway, that is the reason that you'll see a lot of these guys, Steve Perry included, Michael Jackson, Robert Plant, a lot of these lead vocalists, when they're in interviews, they don't talk like this. They talk a little bit more like this. Now they might talk lower, and very often they'll use vocal fry to kind of cover up what they're doing a little bit, but they'll rarely talk with like a strong TA muscle, because it creates this disconnect where people hear them speaking and then they hear them singing and they go, that doesn't really sound exactly the way that they're singing. Are they in falsetto? Is this their false voice? This feels inauthentic. And, a lot of people, whether consciously or unconsciously, can't really get past that barrier. Nonetheless, a trained singer is going to be able to belt up to about an A440, maybe with really good genetics and a lot of training. They could get all the way up to a B. I've heard even a C for, your kind of Steven Tylers or, your genetic freaks or whatever, who are going to be able to belt at that high a volume. Everybody else, what's actually happening is they get their belt up to an A440, which is very, very high. And then it's so high, in fact, that as soon as they start to go higher and they lighten up their mechanism in a balanced way, it seems as if they're belting everything. That's what Steve Perry does. That's what I was trying to do right here. This is more of a demonstration. So if you think that sucked, you can light me up in the comments. That's totally fine. I'm literally nobody. But anyway, I hope you got a little kick out of that, and it makes you think a little bit more about like this whole thing of like, who's a natural tenor, who's a baritone. This I can tell you with absolute certainty based on my voice teacher, Justin Stoney, who's probably the best voice teacher in the world. Voice type is a myth. You should, no matter what, if you want to be a professional singer, you should train the absolute bottom of your range down, rumble range, vocal fry, whatever you want to call it, all the way down here. You should train those notes, and then you should train all the way to the top and to the flageolet range. And flageolet range is actually, I think of it as the falsetto above your falsetto. And it has different vocal characteristics. I'll do another video all about flageolet range, but it basically starts to make things kind of sharper again, where falsetto is a little bit foggy and flageolet range is a little bit like this. It's actually very sharp and very clear. Microphone loves it, and you can do some really cool things with it. And even if you never use those notes up there, simply by training your flageolet range, all of those kind of overtones are going to trickle all the way down into the fullness of your voice. And, it's just going to give you a more impressive sound, regardless. Okay. Anyway, this is a quick one. I actually have a show to get to tonight at Patchogue, and, very excited to, rock that crowd. So, hope to catch you on the next one, and hopefully I'll get some decent media and some video of this. But my AC/DC tribute band, Power Up, is going to be playing at Stereo Garden in Patchogue tonight. Really pumped about it. So anyway, please like, subscribe, comment. Hopefully it'll be more positive than negative. But hey, man, that last video is the most, the most views and engagement and all that stuff that I've ever made. So, I guess we'll just have to wait and see, right? But thank you for, supporting whether it's positive or negative. The algorithm doesn't give a F. So anyway, hope you got a little something out of that. Thanks again. Stay voice heady.